Hey guys, real quick before we start this video, I just want to mention that React Router DOM has actually been updated to version 6, and this video that you're about to watch uses version 5, and there's been a couple changes. So what we'll do is in this video we'll set everything up as if you're using React Router version 5, but if you go in your package.json and you have version 6, then I'll address that in the next video and show you what you have to change in order for it to work with version 6. So just go ahead and follow along with this video, but you might have some errors, and then in the next video I'll show you how to address those errors and make it so that it works with version 6. Okay, so now I want to get into routing within React, and with this specific application we don't really need routing, we don't need any other pages, but I'm going to create an about page just to tell a little bit about the application, just so I can demonstrate routing to you, and we'll be using routing in future projects as well. Now React itself doesn't have a router built in, but there's a very popular package called React Router DOM, and that's what we'll be using. So let's go ahead and go into our terminal here, and I'm going to just npm install React. So it's React-router-DOM. Okay, so we have that installed. Now as far as what I want for routes, I want an index or a home page route, which is going to show what we're seeing here, and that has multiple components on it. And then we're also going to have a separate about page. So let's go into our folder structure here, into source, and what I usually like to do, if a component is going to be its own route, I like to put it in a separate folder called pages instead of putting it right in components. Even though it is a React component, I like to put it in a separate place. So in pages here, I'm going to create a new file, and we're going to call this about. Let's call it aboutpage.jsx. Okay, and then we'll just create a component here, and for now we'll just go ahead and output about. All right, now in our app.js we do need to bring that in. Let me just close that up. We do need to bring in the about page, so anything we want to put in a specific route we're going to bring into this app.js as if we were just embedding it directly. So let's import about page, and that's going to be, make sure you do it from pages if that's what if you also put a pages directory. And we could just, embed this down here somewhere. Like I could go about page and save, and that's going to be down at the very bottom. You can see about, but we want our own route for this specific component or this specific page. Now to use the router we need to first of all import it, so let's go up here and let's import, and it's going to be from React Router DOM, and then what we want to import is browser router. Now there's a couple different versions that we can use as far as this router goes. There's browser router, there's also something called hash router. So browser router actually uses the HTML5 history API to keep our user interface in sync with the URL. Hash router, on the other hand, uses the hash portion of the URL to keep it in sync. So basically, if you use the hash, then let me just make this a little bigger, and you want to go to like about, you would do slash and then hash about. And we don't want to do that. We just want to be able to do slash about. So we're going to use the browser router, and that's the more common version to use. So we're going to say import browser router as router. That way we can just use router. And then we also want to bring in route, which is a specific component for rendering whatever you want to render, whether it's a component or just some output in a specific route. And then in order to use the router, we actually have to wrap everything in our app.js inside of our router. Okay, which is, we're using the browser router. If you were using the hash router, you could just replace this with hash and you would still surround it with router here. Now to create a route, we simply use the route component, and there's a couple ways we can do this. We could have a closing route tag, and then we could add a path prop here and set that to /about and say this is the about route, right? So now this isn't going to display on the home page. I would actually have to go to up here. I'd have to go to /about, and you'll see that that's showing at the bottom. Now the rest of these components are still showing because remember, they're just embedded in right in the app.js. They're not in any particular route, so those are still going to show. Now, and we'll take care of those in a second, but instead of just putting something inside of the route tags like this, what I'm going to do is have a self-closing route tag, and we're going to pass in a component prop, and that component is going to be our about page, okay, which we brought in up top. So now if I save that, as long as we're on /about, we're going to see whatever we have in that about page. Now that takes care of the about page. Let's take care of the rest of the stuff. And we have 3 components here that I want to display on the index or the home page. So we can't do it like this, right? Because in here we're just passing in a specific component, which is fine if that's what you need. But in our case, we need 3 components. So let's go up here and let's say route, and then we're going to just surround these 3 components here. And let's give this a path, and the path is just going to be / right, because we want this to be our home page. And then we can just save that, and notice that, I mean, we can go to just localhost 3000 and that's fine, it shows what we need. But if we go to about, it's still showing our 3 components, and the reason for that is it's matching the path, right? The URL is matching the path, and it sees this / here, but it also sees it here. So it's going to load both of these components, and there's an easy fix for this, and that's to add an additional prop called exact. So this means that it has to match exactly this path, which is just /. So now let's save that, and now you can see if we're on /about, now we no longer see, you know, our feedback form and all that stuff. It only shows the about component. Now I'm just going to go into the about page here and just make it look a little better. So I'm going to bring in the card component that we created earlier because I want to actually wrap this in a card. So if I save that, we should see our card. And now I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to have a class of about, a div with the class of about, and h1 we'll just say about this project, and let's have a paragraph. We'll just say this is a React app to leave feedback for a product or service, and like I said, you could put anything here. And then let's just have another paragraph with the version, which is 1.0.0, and then I'm going to have a paragraph with a link to go back to the home page. Now with React Router, there's a specific way to do links, but I'm going to show you that in the next video. So for now, I'm just going to put a plain old A tag here and just say back to home. Okay, so it should look something like this, and this will bring us back home, but I'll explain why you don't want to use an A tag in the next video. Okay, so like I said at the beginning of the last video, React Router DOM has been updated. So I've installed version, or I've updated to version 6, and immediately we get some errors here. So it says a route is only ever to be used as the child of routes. So routes has actually replaced the switch element in React Router 5, which we haven't talked about yet. We use switch in the next project, but it's been replaced with routes. So all we have to do is, in addition to what we've already brought in, we want to bring in routes, not with a 0. We want to bring in routes, and then down here where we have 2 routes, right? So we just want to surround that in routes. So that'll be the opening tag, and then let's go under the about route here, and we want to close it. So that's the first step. Now the way that we include our components is now different as well. So instead of using component and setting it to whatever that component is, we use element. So we're going to say element, but then this is going to be JSX. So we just want to add the tag like this. Okay, so that takes care of that. Now for this, since we're doing multiple components here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do element and set that to, and here we can add some JSX. Now we do have to have a parent level element, so we'll just use a fragment here, and then we should be able to just take these and cut those and put those right into here. And that should do it. All right, so that's really the only changes. You want to surround your routes in this routes element, and then instead of using component, you want to use element, and instead of wrapping them like we did here, you want to use element. So now let's go back over, and it should now work. And this is different than what you guys are seeing. This is coming from a back end, which we're gonna do later on. And the next two videos have to do with the React router as well. For instance, I'm going to show you how to get query params and stuff like that, and it should be fine with both React router 5 and 6. If not, then I'll just have to add some updated videos for those as well. But the next two videos really don't have anything to do with the project. It's just to teach you a little bit more about what React Router DOM offers. Okay, so now that we know how to create routes, I want to show you how we can create links to those routes or to those pages. And right now on our home page, we have no way to link to the About page. So what I'm going to do is create a little icon, question mark icon down here that we can click on, and it will link us to the About page. So let's actually put that in its own component. So under components, we'll create a new file. We'll call this about icon link.jsx. And let's create a component here. And I'm going to bring in from Font Awesome. Let's say import. It's going to be from React icon /FA because we're using the Font Awesome library. And the icon that I want to use is called FA question. And we're going to put that in here, FA question. And I'm going to just pass in a size prop of 30. And then this div, I'm just going to give this a class name of about link, which is a class that I have in the global CSS that will position it absolute down in the corner. So let's save that for now. I know I haven't put any link in here, but let's just get it on the page. So in our app.js, let's import it. So we'll import about icon link, and then I'm just going to put that down in the return here. Let's go right above this ending div. And let's put in what I call it, about icon link. So we'll save that, and now we should have a little question mark here. So back in the about icon link component, I'm going to first just wrap it in a regular A tag and show you why you shouldn't do this. So this is going to go to /about, /about, and then let's wrap this. Okay. So if I click on this now and it has an A tag, it does bring me to the About page. I also have this A tag that brings me back home. It does work, but if you look at the reload button here, when I click on the link, you can see how it flashes to an X. So basically it's doing a refresh of the page, and we don't want that. We want it to be all done just immediately on the client side without having to actually refresh. And we do that with a link that we can bring in from React Router DOM. So in the about icon link component, let's actually go here and let's import. So we're going to import link from, and that's going to be from React Router DOM. And then instead of using an A tag, A tags are fine if you're linking off-site, you know, if you're going to some other website, but any internal links you're going to want to use link. And instead of href, you're going to want to use to. So it's going to be link to about. And then we're going to do the same thing on the about page. So we're going to bring in link, and then down here where we're going back to home, let's change that to link, and let's change that to 2. Okay, so now I should be able to still link to those pages, but notice how it's instant. There's no refresh. You know, you don't see that X. It's just instant. Everything happens on the client side very quickly. Now I just want to show you a couple other things you can do with this. So I guess we can, we'll just do this in the about link. So instead of having just a string here, you could have an object. We could say to and then open up double curly braces here. And we could say path name and set that to /about. And let's just try that out. So if we go back home, actually we should probably put a link going home for this header too as well. We'll do that in a second. But if I click, that works. Okay, that goes to about. And then there's some other properties you can pass in. You might want to add some query params to the link. So for that, you could add search. And let's say maybe it's like a sort or something. We could say sort equals name, something like that. And now if I click on this, it brings me to /about, and it also adds a query param of sort equals name. If you wanted to have it go to a specific hash, you could do that as well. So we could say hash, and then in here you could put your hash, and maybe, I don't know, we'll just say hash hello. So now if I click that, you can see it adds the query params, and it also adds the hash of hello. So there's different properties you can pass in here. Of course, you could add this just manually to a string, but this gives you a nice clean way to do it as well. All right, but I'm just gonna undo all that and just have it go to the string of /about. Now there are some other things that I want to show you about the router that don't really have to do with this application, this project that we're building, but they are important things to know, and we will be using them in other projects, so we're going to get to those next. Alright guys, so I want to show you a couple other things that we can do with React Router DOM. Now some of the stuff you're going to see here you haven't done yet because I'm recording this video after the fact, because React Router updated from version 5 to 6, so I had to change a couple things. But in this video you don't have to copy anything that I'm going to do. It's just for teaching purposes. It's stuff that is important for you to learn and to know, but it's not anything we're using in this particular project. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is NavLink. We've already went over link. Okay, we bring in link whenever we want to do any inner site links, like the about page, back to home. We used a link with a to attribute. So there's also something called NavLink, which is very similar. It's used to navigate, but it can also hold a specific class for active links. So if you want, let's say you're on the about page and you want the about link to be a certain color, you could do that with NavLink. So again, you don't have to do anything I'm about to do here, but in the app.js I'm going to bring in NavLink, and I'm going to delete everything I'm going to do afterwards. So I brought in NavLink. I'm also going to bring in the card component just to give it a background. So that is, let's see, I'll just put it right here. So I'm going to import card, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom here. Let's close that up and add a card. Whoops, add a card, and then I'm going to add a NavLink. So NavLink takes in two, just like the regular link does, and this will just go to /, but it also takes in an active class name. And this could be anything. I'm going to call it active. It's just whatever class you want to use in your CSS. And then inside NavLink, I'm just going to have home, because this is a link to the home page. And then let's take this and copy that down. Again, you don't have to do this. And I'm going to put in /about here, and then about. So I'm going to save that, and now you can see down here we have a home and an about, and what's going to happen is we have this active class name of active, so I can go into my CSS. So I'm going to go into my index CSS and create a class of active. And from here, I'm just going to do, we'll do background black, and let's do color red. So if I save that and I come back, you'll see that my home link now has the active class applied to it. If I go to the about page, now that has the black background and red text. Okay, so it's just an easy way to add a specific class to your active link. Because before we had NavLink, I mean, you had to do all types of rigmarole to get this to happen. All right, now I'm going to just delete this active. I don't need this anymore. And I'm also going to get rid of this. Actually, I'll just undo everything that I did here. Okay, so let's see. The next thing I want to show you is how to get params. So if I have, let's say, a blog, and you're going to have all your posts, and then you click on a post, and then you're going to go to something like post / and it could be a slug, like it could be the title, or it might be an ID like 1 or whatever, some number. So I want to show you how we get this from a component. So first of all, I'm going to create a component called post, and I'm going to delete this after. It's just to show you. And let's say React functional component, and for now I'll just say post, and then I'm going to bring this into my app.js, and then I'm going to create a route. So down here I'll just copy this about, and the way we do this is we would do post, but then we want to do /:, and then whatever param this is going to be. It could be a slug. In this case, we'll say it's an ID. And then we want to load the post component. So now if I come over here, you'll see if we go to post/1, we see the post component. It could be anything, post/200, and we see that post component. All right, so let's come back over here, and we'll put this in an H1, and let's say post, and then I want to show whatever the number of the post or the ID of the post. So we do this with something called useParams. It's a hook that React Router offers called useParams. So we want to import that from React Router DOM, and then we just have to create a variable called, or call it whatever you want, but convention would be params, and set that to useParams. And then we can simply come down here, and if we want to output it, we could just do params dot and then whatever param we want. So I'll say ID. So now we see post 200. And if I were to change this to something else, let's say 2000, it's going to show here. And a common use case for this would be to have an ID passed in, and then you would make some kind of request to a back end to get that specific post, and you would use that params.id. So I also want to show you we can add more than one. So if I do post ID, I could also add another one, maybe name, and then if I come over here, we'll just output, we'll say name, and then params.name. Okay, and now if I go to, let's say post/2000/Brad, it'll show the name. So it's just going to be params dot and then whatever you call these. All right, so in the next video I want to show you a couple more things, including how to create nested routes and also how to redirect and programmatically redirect. So if you're in a function and you want to send a user to a specific route. So we'll cover that next. Okay, so there's just a few other things I want to show you that have to do with the React Router DOM. And again, you don't have to have this post.jsx file. This is just to show you this stuff. So the first thing I want to look at is redirects. And I'm actually going to change, right now for the route, we have post ID name. I just want this to go to /post and load the post component. And then we can just get rid of that. We don't need useParams, although I'm going to bring something else in a minute. And we'll just get rid of that. All right, so now I should be able to just go to /post. And no, not post one, just post. Okay, so now it's loading this component. So to redirect, we used to have a component that we could bring in called redirect with version 5 of React Router DOM, and that doesn't exist anymore. It's been changed to navigate. So I'm going to bring in navigate, and then let's say we have, we'll just create a dummy variable here called status, and maybe that comes from a server. So status 200 means everything's okay, but let's put an if statement here and say if status is equal to 404, then we want to redirect or navigate to a new page. So in here, we'll use our navigate component, which takes in 2, and then wherever we want to navigate to. So you might have, a not found page. I know we don't, but we'll just put it anyway. All right, and that's it. So if I save this, nothing's going to happen. But if I change this status to 404, I'm sorry, we need to return this. If I change it to 404, you can see now we've been redirected to /notfound. All right, now there might be times when you have like a button, you click it, you have some function that happens, and then you want to redirect or push to a new route. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So let's create a button down here, and we'll just say click. Let's have an on click here and set that to on click, and then we'll have a function up here. Let's go right here and say const on click. All right, and then if we want to, we might want to do something. Let's just console log hello, and then redirect. So to do that, there's actually a hook that we can bring in called useNavigate, and then all we have to do, we have to define first. Let's say const navigate, just like we did with params, and we're going to use useNavigate, and then in here we can simply do navigate dot, and then there's a oh, actually no, it's not a method, it's just navigate. I was thinking dot push, but we just do navigate, and let's do /about. So if we go back to our post page, let's see, I want to go to /post. I don't know why it's doing this. Let me make this bigger because I can't see what I'm doing. So I want to go to /post. That should show the, oh, I still have this set. All right, so now if I click this button, it should console log hello, and then it redirects me to the about page. Okay, so if you ever have to redirect after maybe you update something on a server and then you want to go to a new page, that's how you would do it. Now we can also have nested routes, and we can display something specific on a page if it's a certain route. So let's go back to post, and let's say I want to display either a component or whatever it might be, depending on if I'm at, let's say /post/ maybe show, right? So what we could do is in this post file, we could bring in, I want to bring in routes and route, because with version 6, if you're going to create a route, it has to be within routes. And then let's go down into the JSX here, and let's say routes, and I'm going to put a route here, and the path I'm going to put here is going to be /show. Now, actually, I want to end it. Now, since I'm already within the post route here, when I say /show, I want it to actually mean post/show. So to make this work in our main route here to go to the post, it's going to be, we're going to do /*. Okay, and then here we'll do post/show, and then the element we could display, it would most likely be another component, but in our case, let's just put in h1 and just say, I don't know, we'll just say hello world here. So if I save this, now you can see hello world displays, but only if I'm at /post/show. If I'm just at post, then it's not going to show that. Okay, so if you have something you only want to show on a specific route, you could go ahead and do it like this, but just remember you have to have this asterisk. Otherwise, if we don't, and I go to post/show, it doesn't work, and we actually get an error that says no routes match location post/show. So make sure that if you do that, you do add the asterisk. All right, so those are the main fundamentals of React Router. So we'll get to some other stuff later on in other projects, but like I said, those are the fundamentals, and I'm going to just get rid of this now. We no longer need that. I'm not going to bring in post, and I'm going to delete post.jsx, and there we go. All right, so everything is now back to how I had it. All right, so in the next section, we're going to start to look at the context API, because right now, I mean, this is the final project, but where we're at now, we have everything in our app.js, and we want to start to move that to a global context. We want a global state that we can use to pass our state down to our components through the context, rather than having it all just in our app.js file.